Once again, welcome to this program, guys, to all of you, and a very warm welcome. And it's great to have all of you here. Okay, so let me just give you first of all an overview of what are we going to cover in these 4 sessions: session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4. All right, and then go on to what are we going to really do today in session 1. And also then how are we going to align all your expectations into this program. Okay. Essentially, just to give you a kind of well-rounded kind of description about what are we going to do. Essentially, we're going to talk about compensation strategy, compensation policy, pay policy, and then we will look at internal and external factors, and then we will go on to doing job evaluation, then designing of pay structures, then looking at market data, then how are we going to do a salary survey, then all this collecting data, analyzing, interpretation, which is all about statistical analysis, like what are these percentiles, how do you go about doing percentiles. So some amount of statistics will be involved. Then we will also look at the designing of the variable salaries, that is incentive schemes, performance pay. And then we will look at, in the end, what is very, very important today is the total reward strategy as such. Today, we are not just talking about compensation and benefit. We're talking about total reward strategy. So in a nutshell, this is what it is. So session 1 will talk about external factors, components of a compensation system, the pay mix, how does it impact organization, why should you have the right kind of a pay mix, and equity theory. Session 2 would talk about internal equity. How do you establish fairness, equity in your compensation? So by doing job evaluation, by establishing the worth of the jobs, then you go about building equity or fairness by designing the right kind of pay structures. We would be doing in detail ranking, point rating method, etc. Then we go on to session 3, where we are looking at how do we then compete, how competitive are we. So we do, that is external equity. So to be competitive, then we actually look at market data. How do you actually go about doing a salary survey? What are the sources of looking at data, published data, customized surveys? Then how do you then gather data? What kind of data will you gather? How will you define your benchmark positions? What is the criteria or the basis for benchmarked positions? Then you go about doing interpretation. If you have a report, how do you read that report? What are these percentiles, deciles, quartiles? So all of it. And we'll also look at how have these compensation structures evolved over time, narrow banding, broad banding, etc. Okay, in this globalized environment, because as you know that now it is much more evolved and it's a globalized environment. In session 4, what we are going to talk about is all about the variable. Where is session 3? Sorry. Yeah. We talked about compensation, and then in session 4 we are going to talk about variable pay plans, that is establishing individual equity. That is when two people are doing the same job, then how do you establish fairness or equity for between those people for doing something over and above their job description. So design considerations of short-term incentives, medium-term incentives, long-term incentives. We'll talk about, say, ESOPs or deferred pays, etc. And then we'll also talk about this total reward strategy and how do you budget total reward planning, and also pay for performance. So all of it. Well, it might be a lot at this point of time to hear about it. Okay, but I'm sure as we go along, you will be able to put everything in place and into your system, just like we put the folders into a PC. Okay, guys. So what are we going to do in today's session? Essentially, so we'll have 3 modules, and yes, it's about 3 o'clock. Let me just stop the share. Okay. I would also prefer for some time if you switch on your videos just to get motivated. I know all of you might be having several challenges, I'm sure. Just to give you a context, organizations are what? Dynamic, and we call them as looking after career development, etc., identifying gaps, doing need assessment, etc. So what I will be doing, I will be aligning my initiatives. Then what will happen? Naveen, what will happen? Say, for example, your salaries are much lower than the market. What will happen?
People will be demotivated.
We will quit the organization, or will not be
You're
motivated.
accepting, you are hiring. So you have, doled out how many, say about 500 orders, recruitment, contract letters. But how many acceptances will you get? Maybe 5%,
Very less.
10%.
Yes.
So the acceptance rate will be so poor. Why? Because people are not motivated, not attracted to the kind of salary you're giving, because you have not kept it competitive. Right?
True.
So what does it mean? That compensation cannot be designed just by, collecting everything internally. So compensation hugely impacted by both the factors, internal factors and external factors, right?